Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Payoff Pitch. As always, I'm your host, Paul Valley, and this is episode lucky number 13. Let's get right into it. Your Baltimore Orioles sitting atop the American League East at 23-13, holding off the Red Sox by a mere 7 percentage points for first place in the AL East. Orioles 639 winning percentage, best in the American League, second best in all baseball to the red-hot Chicago Cubs and their 750 winning percentage. That team right now, they're playing out of their minds, something like 27-8. They're absolutely ridiculous. You know, great pitching, great hitting, great defense, on pace to win, 110, 115 games this year. Team's playing out of their minds. I can see why they're the odds-on favorite to win the World Series this year. That being said, a lot of reason to think the Orioles could be right there with them come October. And that's because the Orioles are playing their best baseball of the year. They're getting great starting pitching, ton of quality starts. Those guys are really feeding off each other and just keep pitching great ball games, with the exception of Ubaldo's every other start and Kevin Gausman's game yesterday, but we'll get into that in a bit. 11-4 since April 27th, including a 7-game winning streak. Their second such 7-game winning streak of the season after only having 2 7-game winning streaks in a 16-year span from 2000 to 2015. So, not even a quarter of the season done, they've already had 2 7-game winning streaks. So, gives you something to hang your hat on, a lot to be excited about. But with all of that said, nobody right now is focusing on the great baseball they've been playing, but rather everybody's focusing on what happened on Sunday. And let's get into it. Orioles have had 12 comeback wins in their 23 wins this year, and Sunday was going to be no different if they wanted to win that game. Gausman gives up a leadoff double to Ian Kinsler. He eventually comes around to score. And the Orioles found themselves in an early 1-0 hole. They score 3 runs in the bottom of the first. Then, by the time we get to the bottom of the fifth, they find themselves trailing 4-3. And, look, Kevin Gausman was bad yesterday. He was bad. Gave up 9 or 10 hits alone. He walked a batter. He only struck out 1 batter. And with his arm, that just tells you right there that he didn't have it. Wasn't missing any bats. And I posted a couple things on Twitter about it yesterday. One was saying a lot of balls squared up early on Gausman. Hopefully he settles it down. And then just saying, coming right out with it, saying it was uncomfortable to watch him pitch because he wasn't missing bats. He was just giving up hit after hit after hit. The fact that he only gave up 4 runs with the way he was pitching yesterday is actually pretty remarkable, and I think speaks to really how good of a pitcher he actually is, because there's a lot of pitchers that would have given up 7, 8, 9 runs had they been giving up the hits that he was giving up. So, but Manny bails him out with a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 5th inning, gives the Orioles a 5-4 lead. They turn it over to the bullpen. You're feeling confident that they can win this game because, A, the Orioles are already into Detroit's terrible bullpen, and B, the Orioles bullpen is solid. One of the best, if not the best, in baseball. So Michael Givens comes in. He goes 2 scoreless. Then Darren O'Day comes in, and he gets the first 2 outs of the 8th inning. And that's when everything fell apart. He has a 2-strike count on J.D. Martinez, throws a nasty slider to him. Martinez offers, but checks his swing, right? So the home plate umpire asks for help from the first base umpire, who says he didn't swing. O'Day's angry. Buck's angry. Caleb Joseph is angry. They show the replay from the first base umpire's angle. And I gotta be honest, O'Day called the miss egregious. I disagree. That call could have gone either way. I watched that replay a dozen times. Do I think his bat broke the plane? Probably. If they had said he swung, I would have said, yeah, he swung. They say he didn't swing. I can sit there and say, okay, it's not that blatant of an erroneous call. It was very, very close. Now, yeah, if you're the Orioles, if you're the fans, if you're Darren O'Day, you want that call. You need that call. Because then you're going to turn, that's the 3rd out of the inning, you're out of the inning, and you're turning the game over to your all-star closer in Zach Britton in the 9th inning, and you're probably getting that win. Instead, he doesn't get the call, which is fine, but do your job. Don't let the emotions get the best of you. Your job is to pitch. You don't get that call, get the next one. Instead, he grooves an 87-mile-an-hour beach ball belt high down the middle of the plate to J.D. Martinez, who is an absolute monster. We're talking about a guy who had 30-plus bombs last year with over 100 RBIs. And what did he do? He did what big league players of that caliber do. He absolutely mashed it into the left center field, over the left center field wall, into the bullpen. Okay, so now you've given up the lead. The game's tied. Go after the next guy. Next guy's Miguel Cabrera. You can't give him anything to hit. So what does O'Day do? A little 86-mile-an-hour two-seam fastball, middle in, mid-thigh high, and Cabrera does what Miguel Cabrera does, and he mashes it into the left field stands. And now you go from having a 5-4 lead to having a 6-5 deficit, and the Orioles couldn't score the rest of the game. They lose 6-5, 7-game winning streak, gone. You're leading the American League East, gone. Still tied for first place. Technically in first place by yourself, but in the standings it says both teams are in first place. Either way, you had a one-game lead. You could have kept the one-game lead because the Red Sox won yesterday, but instead you're back tied again because, you know, one of the best relief pitchers in the game, and Darren O'Day, couldn't get the job done. Now look, nobody's going to sit here and say Darren O'Day's done, and nobody's going to sit here and criticize the guy. Everybody's just going to talk about that blown call by the first base umpire. Not a blown call. It could have gone either way. Your job is to pitch, do your job, and we're not talking about this here on the Payoff Pitch. But I digress. Losses happen. They got a 3-game series coming up against the Seattle Mariners, who had won 6 in a row and now have lost 3 in a row. They lost 3 straight to the Angels, who are not a good team. So Seattle's kind of reeling coming in. Good news for the Orioles is they miss Felix Hernandez this series. Bad news is they have to face off against Taijuan Walker, who is a very good young up-and-coming pitcher. So hopefully they can take 2 or 3. And hey, look, if you had told me that the Orioles were going to take 3 or 4 from the Tigers, I'd have been pleased. So it always is a little bittersweet, though, when you take 3 or 4, 2 or 3 from a series when you win the first few games of the series and then you lose the last one to not get the sweep. But 3 or 4 is still good. Hopefully they can get 2 or 3 from the Mariners, move on, go on a 10-game road trip before they come back to Camden Yards. So Sam finally asked me some questions, my buddy Sam Mullenix, and I'm more than happy to answer them. He asked me quite a few. The first question he asked me is Manny Machado the best player in baseball, or do you give that award to Bryce Harper? I don't even think you can narrow it down to just those two. They are 2 of the best players in the game, yes. But you got to have Mike Trout in that conversation, Nolan Arenado in that conversation, Andrew McCutchen is in that conversation. What's amazing to me is the fact that Bryce Harper, he's getting Bonds treatment already. Dude's, 23 years old? And they're walking him almost every plate appearance. On Mother's Day, the guy walked 6 times and got hit by a pitch. First time in the modern era somebody comes to the plate 7 times, gets on base all 7 times without a hit. The guy's on base percentage is through the roof. He's hitting 260, on base percentage well above 450, because nobody wants to pitch to him. And I kind of don't blame them, because you look at Bryce Harper in that Nationals lineup, and Ryan Zimmerman, Jason Worth, yeah, they're good ball players. But they're not striking the fear in opposing pitchers' hearts like Bryce Harper does. So do you pitch to Bryce Harper, or do you pitch to Zimmerman or Worth? You pitch to Zimmerman or Worth. Manny's not getting that treatment, at least not yet anyway. Yeah, he gets his intentional walks here and there. He takes his base on balls every now and again. He's got a on-base percentage well above 400 himself, even though he's scuffling at the plate right now. The difference is Manny's not getting intentionally walked every time he comes to the dish, because he's got Adam Jones behind him. He's got Chris Davis behind him. He's got Mark Trumbo behind him. The Orioles lineup is better than the Nationals lineup. So Bryce Harper's going to get walked more because there's less players to be scared of in that lineup as opposed to Manny. I can't sit here and tell you Manny's the best player in the game. I can't sit here and tell you Bryce Harper's the best player in the game. There's too many great players. And I think it's disrespecting the other great players in the game to say that one is better than the other. There are clear-cut 5 or 6 guys who stand above the rest. But I'm not going to sit here and say one's better than the other. I'd like to believe Manny's the best, but then you have to think about Trout. And then you have to think about Harper and Arenado. I will tell you this, I think Manny Machado has the American League MVP award to lose. I think it's his to lose this year. I think he's been the front runner all season. I don't think that's changing anytime soon. He'd have to have a serious collapse. The Orioles would have to have a serious collapse for that to not happen. Sam also asked me, who's more likely to hit 50 dingers this year, Mark Trumbo or Chris Davis? Considering the fact that Mark Trumbo's never even hit 40, I'm going to give that honor to Chris Davis. 47 home runs last year, 53 home runs in 2013. And Davis would have had 52 home runs last year, got robbed 5 times, which was a major league high. Here's the thing, I don't think either one of them are going to sniff 50 home runs this year. Now, Davis could get hot like he did last year and just start mashing all over the place. But I think it's more likely they both hit 35 to 40 home runs in a very potent lineup. I think the Orioles could have 4 or 5 guys with 30 home runs. Outside shot at 6, I doubt that happens. But, I don't think either one of them gets close to 50. But if one of them's going to do it, it's going to be Chris Davis. Trumbo has to show me he can hit 40 before I can start saying he's going to hit 50. Another question that Sam asked me is, will Ubaldo Jimenez ever be worth the money that we're paying him? No. He's never going to be worth the money. He's too Jekyll and Hyde, like I said in the last episode. The guy, one game will give you 8 solid innings of 2-run ball, and then the next game he'll give you 5 innings of 6-run ball. The dude has nasty stuff. Nobody's doubting that. There's no denying that. His mechanics are so funky and so out of whack. It's hard for him to repeat his delivery, which is why he tends to walk a lot of guys, why he tends to have a roller coaster up and down stretch of starts where one day he's good, one day he's bad. He's never going to be worth $12 to $13 million a year, but that's the going rate for pitchers right now. You look at a guy like Jordan Zimmerman, who got $20 million, Rick Porcello, who's getting $21.6 million a year. Neither of these guys have had a season at their best sniff what Ubaldo's best season was at his best. But those guys are consistent pitchers. The going rate for pitching is astronomical. It's absolutely absurd. But, Ubaldo Jimenez would get $12 to $15 million from any other team out there, so might as well be the Orioles. I personally get nervous every time he pitches. I don't think he's ever going to be worth the money that they're paying to him, but that's the going rate. Thank God there's only one more season to him, and then maybe he can be replaced by somebody like Bundy or Hunter Harvey, or maybe even somebody outside of the organization. Who knows? I'd just rather see him gone than here. And another question Sam asked me was, now that a quarter of the season is almost in the books, do I still feel confident about my preseason predictions? And my preseason predictions, I had Orioles, Blue Jays, Yankees, and I think it was the Red Sox and then the Rays, or the Rays and then the Red Sox. Either way, those two teams bottom of the division. I still feel confident in my prediction that the Orioles will win the division. And that's because they're leading the division right now. They're in first place, winners of 11 and 15, including a recent 7-game winning streak like we talked about earlier in the show. The Red Sox have surprised me. They're scoring a ton of runs, but they're also giving up a ton of runs. So, I think they come back down to earth. I don't think that they're going to win the division. I don't even know that they're going to win a wild card because their pitching just isn't there. And in the game of baseball, bad starting pitching is going to catch up to you. You get to August, you get to September, and if your starting rotation is still terrible, you're not gonna be playing in October. So, still confident in my pick of the Orioles. Less confident in my pick of the Yankees. And I said that I thought that the Yankees had the best team in the division if they could stay healthy. And surprise, surprise, they haven't stayed healthy. Evaldi I think he got injured. I know Severino's on the disabled list. CC Sabathia's on the disabled list. A-Rod's on the disabled list. Teixeira has a tweaked hamstring or back, or it doesn't matter. The guy can't stay healthy anymore. Can't hit above 230 anymore. And it shows. The Yankees have been in last place for the better part of the season, and they're still there now. That surprises me that they're in last place. Doesn't surprise me that they're injured, and that's why I didn't pick them to win the division. Blue Jays hovering around 500. They're 19-20 right now. Actually, they're 19-21 because they just got smashed today, 13-2 by the Rays. How about Jose Bautista getting punched in the face? Everybody in baseball outside of Toronto was pretty pleased about that. Yours truly included. Yeah, the Blue Jays, I think they're going to be there all year. Their pitching has been surprisingly good. So I think they'll be there all year. But who knows? I still think it's Orioles, Blue Jays at the end of the season, 1 and 2 in the division. So, but yeah, no, I'm still confident in my American League East predictions. I get called a homer by some people a lot because I picked the Orioles to win the division this year. Even if they win the division and they get to the playoffs, I don't think they have a shot at winning the World Series against the Cubs, if the Cubs get there. But I picked the Nationals to be in the World Series, so you never know. I mean, you look at the 2001 Mariners, they won 116 games, which is a Major League record, and they lost in the championship series. So, didn't even make it to the World Series. So, I mean, I could be right. I think the Nationals have one of the best teams in baseball, one of the best rotations. I think Dusty Baker is a difference maker there. I think if Dusty Baker was a manager last year, the Nationals would have been at least in the playoffs, if not the World Series. So I think Dusty Baker is a difference maker. I think it's going to come down to the Nationals and the Cubs in the NLCS. And I think the winner of that series is probably your world champions. So, all right, I feel like Sam asked me another question. I can't remember it off the top of my head right now. So, Sam, I'm sorry to you for that. I'm going to make a promise right here. The Facebook page will be up by the next show. Tired of telling you guys it's going to be up and they're not doing it. So I'll get to work on that tonight. Get that Facebook page going. Until then, follow me on Twitter. Even after that, follow me on Twitter at Paul Valley III. And as always, until next time, go O's. Thanks for watching.